So resources that I'm going to be circulating following this meeting for kind of review. You don't have to read every word, but this is just a general understanding. And some of you may be familiar with these already. One is the Keys to Housing Secure Future for All Nova Scotians. That's by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. And it has a variety of principles from kind of a social policy framework side of things specific for Nova Scotia. It's attempting to answer this question: what would it take to ensure that everyone has meaningful access to safe, permanent, affordable, secure, supported, and adequate housing in Nova Scotia? So within this, they have a variety of different sort of policy elements that they use, kind of principles, which help outline some of these social and supportive safety net elements that would coincide with the provision of affordable housing. They have some figures within them that start to talk about the vulnerability of certain populations to housing unaffordability that I think can get lost in some of the conversations that you'll often run into with the city and with kind of CMHC in terms of how you address affordability. Just providing units is maybe not necessarily providing the type of social support that I think that this group is looking into. Also providing a few numbers and kind of comparisons for renters in core need of housing being those who are spending more than 30% of their before tax income on rent/mortgage costs and utilities. And you'll see that some of you are familiar with this, but you'll see that 30% number thrown around quite a bit when it comes to a definition of what affordable actually means. Even still, 30% of your income is quite a high amount, and it presumes a certain income threshold already, because there's a bit of a baseline. It's not like you can get somewhere to live that's $5 if you only make a couple hundred. So also, it speaks to the discrepancy between this report, the discrepancy between renters versus owners. And their contribution to a core housing need. The other is charting a new course for affordable housing, which is the Nova Scotia Affordable Housing Commission, talking about more of the supply and demand side of things and trying to offer practical recommendations for Nova Scotia and sort of a moving forward perspective. So in terms of housing supply, people and communities, partnerships, and governance, they have outlined sort of a core question, a context, and then goals. So in terms of housing supply, it's building housing capacity within the community housing sector, trying new alternatives for financing mechanisms, incentivizing a change in the type of housing as well. Kind of housing use, so fewer Airbnbs, for instance. But some of these, as you read through, will dovetail with the goals that we have as a group here. The other would be people and communities. So what sort of goals have they outlined? Building a path to ownership for renters. So the fact that this isn't just to be a substitution of here's a place to live and be a renter forever. There ought to be a path to ownership. Improving access to supplemental support and making sure that housing is readily accessible and equitable within its access to various amenities like transit and infrastructure. And then partners in governance is to speak to the various interconnections between potential community housing infrastructure, community housing supply, market-based housing supply, and those who have the ability to either approve or provide funding for the governance of these elements, be they provincial or be they municipal. Something that it talks to, and I'll get into this in a second as well, is this idea of housing as a spectrum. Housing isn't just, I know that you all know this, housing isn't just, one detached home, everyone gets one detached home. That's not going to be practical. It's not the form that we are going to be looking at. We're going to be considering a variety of different methods and forms based on the aspirations of the group as a whole. So from homeless to sort of market home ownership, there is a spectrum within this. in that spectrum, and this is something I wanted to break down a little bit, was affordability versus cost. I wanted to give just a little bit of a context using this resource for the group, and kind of talk to what the state currently is, but using some of the numbers that are present in this report. So what you see here on the right-hand side is the average market rent in Nova Scotia. You would have your average income of a household before taxes. You have what for that decile, the 30% of that income would be. So what would be defined as affordable. And then what the average rental cost would be for a bachelor, a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom within Halifax and Dartmouth. What you find here is the lowest decile. So decile is basically that 0 to 10%. And then the next would be the 10% to 20%, 20% to 30%, broken into individual clusters of 10. What you see is looking at the lowest decile of households, so families, in this case, would be 28,200. And 30% of that would be $705 per month in your 30% of pre-taxed income, if that was going to your rental or your mortgage. Would you be able to afford any of these? And kind of the answer is no, 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 no. Even the next 10% up from that, earning $45,000 for a family. If you're spending $1,128, then yes, you could afford a bachelor if you could find one at the average. Yes, you could afford the average 1-bedroom, but the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom are out of reach. Going a step further, you see that from that point forward, you can basically pick whether you're a family looking for a bachelor to a 3-bedroom in terms of your rental, but it's still kind of painting this picture for those lowest two family deciles. That changes a little bit when you start to consider single residents. So the lowest, second, third, fourth, fifth, basically that lowest kind of 50%, spending 30% of their income on their rent would be unavailable to rent the bachelor, a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, needless to say, based on those average income rates, on those average rental rates, sorry. Going one step further, you have kind of this chunk of individuals, this chunk of earners between the 35,000 and 50,000, where there's a bit of a gradient of access to the average, to a space that they can afford at the average rates, bachelors to 3-bedrooms. And then singles, if you're making 60,000 plus, then yes, you can afford everything from a bachelor to the 1-bedroom, or the 3-bedroom, sorry. So I wanted to break that, to take that and put it kind of in front of everyone, because it does start to put a bit of a number and start to define perhaps some of the users within kind of this discussion, as well as maybe a way that we can understand a little bit better who is able to afford what and who may be a bit more vulnerable to the unaffordability crisis that we currently are facing.